Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, John Donovan.
Hey, Marty Keller.
We'd like to welcome you to this Intentional Living podcast. This is an ongoing series that John and I have been dialoguing about for a number of years now. And the this is a podcast where we take a look at breaking patterns of behaviors that I say I don't want and yet still engage in,
Mhm.
indulge in. Um, So, for example, have you ever hurt someone you loved and then later regretted it and then hurt them again and maybe in the same way? Or have you ever realized in the middle of an argument that you're on the wrong side of the argument, but you continued to argue that way anyway?
Right.
Or have you ever known that you were about to do or say something that you would regret? Maybe even heard a small little voice in your head saying, "Don't do that." And yet you found yourself unable or unwilling to stop? Well, in this podcast, we examine in order to uncover subconscious obstacles to what we want. These obstacles, which are the source of these compulsive behaviors, and we learn to befriend them to make them allies in creating the life we do want. Our conscious mind says that we would like to live. So, John, you and I have been taking a look at a series of principles that we developed over the course of the years that we've been doing this work together. And these are principles that help illuminate what we're aiming at and how it happens here. How do we uncover these obstacles? How do we uncover these compulsions? What do we do with them when we find them? And last week we took a look at a principle that says we become what we hate, we become.
Mhm.
And we have been doing a podcast on each of these principles. We've covered a good 20 of them by now, going back all the way back to last fall when we started this series. And so today we're going to take on a new one that we haven't talked about yet called What You Fight Against, You Strengthen. What you
Yeah.
fight against, you strengthen. Now, one of them that we've talked about way back is what you resist persists. And I'm suspecting this one is a bit of a cousin.
Yeah.
Um, but What you fight against, you strengthen. What does that mean to you? How does that work?
Um, if you're fighting against something specifically, you are focused on that. Um, and my experience of somebody telling me I'm either doing it wrong or I should do it a different way, I I I resist. And even when I know that whatever they're requesting of me might be the healthy thing for me, um, I would resist it. Um, and Gandhi, no, Mother Teresa said, if you have an anti-war protest, I won't come. But if you have a peace um, gathering, I'll come to that. Because in some way, I believe she knew that what you fight against, you promote and you strengthen. It becomes the focus or the perception or perception point of and it just grows. Especially the things inside me. If I'm in a behavior like an obsessive compulsive behavior, the more I don't want to do that obsessive compulsive behavior, in my experience, the more I find myself in that behavior. It's like I'm telling myself to get it right, do it the right way, quit being stupid. Um, and it's never worked for me. It's, um, when I made the decision to quit drinking, it was a decision that I want to say blindsided me. I was actually at a meeting and it wasn't my first meeting. I'd been to a couple meetings before, AA meetings, and I didn't want to be there. I didn't understand what they were talking about. It seemed like people were complaining and about alcohol or talking about being drunk, and it was like I didn't understand it. When I heard myself say at this particular meeting during the introduction, which I did for the first time, introduce myself, and I said, "Hi, my name's John. I'm an alcoholic." Something shifted. It was an acceptance of where I was at. It wasn't a demeaning or diminishing of where I was at. And that's what I mean by fight against. So when you was another way to say this. When you say I don't want to do, I don't want to behave this way. That's generally the way, that pattern that keeps popping up. No matter how hard I try to change it, it keeps popping up. One of the metaphysical things I heard about this specifically is that the universe, the subjective universe, doesn't hear no or not. It hears. And when I say I don't want to do that, it says I want to do that. It hears I want to do that, so that becomes a focus. And I find myself stuck in that pattern. No matter how much I berate myself or tell myself it's stupid, logically go to conclusions that it's not healthy for me, that doesn't matter. The behavior continues. One of the terms that you use is embrace my character defects. I don't know if that's specifically yours, but
I say befriend them.
befriend them, befriend my character, and not fighting something, accepting it is that embrace or friendship, and it shifts something. When I'm adamant about I got to do this right, I got to. I find it difficult. I found it difficult and impossible to change any behavior. It just kept reoccurring. If not that specific way, it would pop up in another way. And the behavior was designed to keep me out of being alone by myself, being in my body, whether it was alcohol, rageaholic, workaholic, something to occupy myself rather than like sitting in silence or contemplating something or that kind of thing. So I made it a principle, and the principles are how would you say they're not absolute statements, but it could be considered absolute statements. Statement of fact, what you fight against, you strengthen, and that engages people like, whoa, what do you mean? No, you should fight. You'd be a good person. You'd be a person that has good values if you fight against this thing and let everybody see that you're not for that. And yet in my personal life, it didn't work. It didn't work. And I want to offer, it doesn't work in any aspect of life that I know of. And you can take a look at the political scene, polarized, everybody's fighting each other. And what it seems to me is is entrenching people in their side. It's just their side. One day I figured out that this fighting against, and it's comes from the adult children of alcoholics, dysfunctional family, unhealed childhood trauma. The language is designed so, like, say a person on the left is talking to a person on the right. Well, everything the person on the left is saying validates the person. See, I'm right. I try to listen to yourself. And if the person on the right starts talking, it validates what the left, where they, oh, just listen to yourself talk. This is you, and we keep pointing at each other, going stupid, and nothing changes except the divide gets bigger. And that is also true with me. Is that discordance or that fracture inside me, discordance, is is stressful. It depletes energy. It takes energy from my immune system. Um, it doesn't enable me to connect to somebody for either support or soothing, whichever one I may need at the time. So, so I put it in the principles so we could have this conversation about it.
Sure. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'd like to offer another way to understand this very powerful proposition here is that, and we've discussed this many times in this podcast, and anybody who would like to dig deeper into childhood trauma and how that is a central role in keeping us stuck in an earlier mode of being. We have many podcasts on this, so you can check out the library.
Yeah.
But I want to suggest that one of the features of the wounded child in each of us is that it is in a defensive mode. So the there's been trauma in my family. It for most of us, it's usually a it's trauma of 1,000 paper cuts.
Right.
So it's not just one thing. It's a series of things that have occurred over the course of the first 4 to 5 years of life before we even have language. And so
Right.
all we have is an emotional experience, an emotional response. And if we have been hearing negativity, if we've been ignored, we've been yelled at, or whatever, as little children, we've created a defensive mechanism that, if it's never changed, will continue into my adulthood, and it'll continue to be the foundational activation of my psychology.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The
what
schedule.
so it essentially is an addictive place because it's addicted to a feeling state that this little kid created to feel safe. And oftentimes that basket of feelings is not something adults would consciously pursue. It's usually full of stress, it's full of anxiety, it's full of hypervigilance. And so you can see that if that's a natural orientation that my wounded little child has, if I get myself into fighting something, that's going to feed that mechanism. Because
Mhm.
fighting is full of stress, fighting is full of anxiety, fighting is full of hypervigilance. So when we say what we fight against strengthens us, part of it is because the emotional energy of fighting is in coherence with what that little kid's emotional state was that he or she created in order to stem off the feeling of abandonment, which was the ultimate threat that we
Yeah.
we experienced as little kids.
Mhm.
So fighting actually feeds that addiction. It helps that little kid feel justified in being in this defensive mode, and it takes so following on what you were saying, it pulls me away. It pulls me
Mhm.
away from my true self. It pulls me away from relationship with you. It pulls me away from relationship with my spouse, from my children, from
Mhm.
my fellow citizens, as you were saying, politically. So it's kind of an insidious thing that if we're convinced that fighting something is going to stop it, or we're going to conquer it, particularly, let's say I'm fighting my alcoholism.
Mhm.
Um, Actually, the wonderful guys that created the 12 steps, the very first step is stop fighting. The
Yeah.
very first step says, no,
First,
own that I'm an alcoholic.
yeah, and that I'm powerless. Yeah, that
Right.
I'm. Yeah. There was a young man in group today, and we did the check-in, and one of his statement was he talked about a habit he had, and it's my goal to kick the habit. And when he was done, I said, "Do you wanna? Can I offer you some feedback or some information?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Would you be willing to consider instead of kicking the habit to embrace or accept the habit?" And it was these concepts when I first heard them way back, it's like, well, what are you talking about? It's like, no, I should be, diligent at fighting this so I can get it out of my life because that's what I know. And I've learned to embrace, nothing's wrong. And this hurts. And this is confusing. And if I fight the hurt, and it just creates more susceptibility to hurt and confusion. When I embrace, I'm confused or I'm hurt or I have a habit that's destructive. Okay, I accept I have a habit that's destructive. There's just a shift in body chemistry.
Yes.
The body chemistry that I was addicted to as a child was in the category of fight, flight, freeze, please, which is adrenaline. And so I recreate that adrenalized state, no matter what's going on, um, to for my safety, because that was my reality as a child. My reality as a child, I was a victim. I had no resources. I had no way to go. I had no choice. I was a victim. That reality became the belief of the adult. And this mechanism that we often refer to, I'm going to refer to it now, the reticular activating system, which is in the brainstem midbrain, which is our alert system, is in what we call a hypervigilant state. And you mentioned defensive. That defensive means there's somebody about to attack. That's an adrenalized, at least cortisoid, some kind of stressor state where you're on alert all the time. And then when something happens that is even similar or we call it trigger, we go into the reactive fight. One of them, flight, run away, screw you, I'm out of here, slam the door, freeze, just go blank, just not aware, I can't figure out the words to say. Or the other one is fawn or please. And for deers, fawning is it just stops, stay still. It doesn't have a scent. So, and it's spotted, so it blends into the environment, so nobody sees it. A predator would just walk right over it. If it didn't hit it, it wouldn't know it. Our please is, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again. And that is an adrenalized state. I'll be in the supermarket and I'll turn down an aisle and there's somebody about halfway and they start saying, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. It's like, I just say, because I know it's this reaction. I'm in your way, which is the reality of the child. You're in my way. I'm watching TV, and you want to play. It's like no. So we learn to dismiss self, and go into this reactive mode to get any attention whatsoever, and then grow up and reproduce those behaviors in our adult life. For me, it was codependency, alcoholism, addiction, and some type of avoidant behavior, rageaholic, workaholic. And I utilize these behaviors to keep myself safe, not even knowing I was trying to keep myself. I had no idea this was going on. I just thought it was a good thing to do. If you got overtime, say yes, and my job was to make money. I'm making money. Or if there was a conflict, oh, I don't like conflict. I'm out. Okay. Oh, no, I'm out of here. I wouldn't engage in the conflict, which is part of the intimacy of relationships. I didn't understand that before, but it's part of the fodder for connection, and endearments and cooperation, which I had no talent for, coming from where I came from my childhood trauma. So
The I'm put in mind of asking if we were to flip this principle over. So what we fight, we strengthen. So what would be the flip side of that? So what we embrace, we heal,
I want to say accept.
or what we accept, we heal.
We're able to feel and deal. notice, where I'm at, and that's the emotion, and then engage, feel and engage with, and that's all mitigated by unresolved trauma. That unresolved trauma makes whatever's happening here, no matter what's happening, whether it's an opportunity to connect into what the child experiences, which was attack or demeaning, diminishing, ridicule, physical trauma, emotional trauma, neglect. And we react as if it's happening right now in the moment based on what we call the trigger from the other person or the situation. And that trigger alerts the reticular activating system, you're in danger. And it could be, here's an example of me being triggered by somebody who loves me and is concerned about me. Come home late, and I hear, where the hell have you been? Why are you late? And I go into fight, flight, freeze, please, screaming, yelling, who do you think you're talking to? Instead of able to hear what that person's saying. Now, if somebody says that to me, I go, oh, I see you're concerned. I see that my neglect of like letting you know where I was and being late worried you because I'm seeing you love me, which was not even in my scope before. It was an attack. Now I see it as an opportunity to engage and connect. But in the same words, where the hell have you been? Oh, and now yeah, let me tell you where I've been. Let me first apologize for not calling and letting you know I was talking to Joe, doing whatever I was doing. So, and I want to offer from where I was at with seeing that as an attack to where I am now. It has been a lot of diligent self-observation and accountability, doing the process we call the accountability, owning my behavior, and knowing that this process, this acceptance, addresses the subconscious. And the subconscious is what needs attention and healing and validation. When I accept that I'm triggered, okay, I'm in a fight, flight, freeze, and take a breath. Oh, yeah, I'm scared. Oh yeah, I'm scared. Excuse me. That was something from my past. Let me take a breath, and now I'll be with you because I just got triggered to my childhood. And I didn't even hear what the person said. I've turned it into, I've turned people into monsters. Just with one thing they did, they become the saber-tooth tiger. They got fangs and they're out for me and they're going to grab me. No, not happening. So
one of the things that I learned from doing this work was to take a look at what does it mean to achieve serenity. What does it mean to be at peace? And I grew up in our culture thinking that peace was the absence of conflict. And as I was going through our work with you and in our men's group early on, I thought, that can't be right because conflict is not eliminatable. I mean, conflict is just part of reality. So,
yeah.
so this can't be what peace is. And so peace cannot be the absence of conflict. So if it's not the absence of conflict, what is it? Oh, what if peace is the willingness to accept conflict for what it is and to deal with it on its own terms?
Correct.
To accept that there's conflict and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the fact that there's conflict.
Right.
So then I started working with that, and I began to realize that that's a much more accurate description, at least of my own experience, is that when I, for example, feel that conflict in my head and that my wounded child voice becomes critical and I feel the adrenaline rising, rather than fighting it, which, as we say in this principle, will just feed it, just strengthen it,
Right.
I just go, I give myself permission to be in a fighting mode in my head.
Right.
I give myself permission to be angry. I give
Yeah.
myself permission to not know what to do here. So
One of the
rather
things,
than being in conflict, I'm being in acceptance.
yeah.
And it changes
One,
everything.
one of the things in this situation, I give myself permission to be wrong,
Hmm.
to misjudge,
Yeah.
to have the wrong concept. And in this conflict that I used to avoid, I can expand my awareness and include more information about what I see as right or wrong, and expand myself.
Right.
Um, I
So I
think it was
remember
Jordan.
back in the during the time of the Iraq War, and there
Yeah,
were huge street demonstrations, and there would be all these signs like "Fight for Peace," and I thought, "Fight for peace." It
yeah.
just it, and now the signs are "Fight hate." It's like fight.
Ooh,
Is that
yeah. That's
is that really
disturbing.
is that really going
Based
to
on where I'm
work?
coming, based on where I'm coming from, that's yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
next week we're going to take on the principle nothing's wrong, and I think that part of what I just heard you say, and I think part of what I said is that acceptance starts with the willingness to just let reality be what it is. I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm scared, uh, I'm hating, whatever it is. It's like I give myself permission to feel this way, to be this way, and then taking that deep breath. Second part of the accountability tree. That's the first part. The second part is okay, now what do I want?
right.
So we move from fighting to creating.
Mhm.
I can't create when I'm fighting. All I can create is adrenaline, anger, possibly bloodshed, but
Yeah,
I can't
resistance and
create
then
peace, I can't create joy, I can't create safety. I can only do those things after I've accepted whatever it is that's conflicting in my psyche.
correct, and make a different choice.
Right,
Make a conscious choice to do something differently,
right.
consciously. Yeah, cool. I can't wait.
So that's what we mean when we say what we fight we strengthen. There's
Hmm.
there's and the opposite is you said what we accept we heal.
Yeah. Yep.
So um, I think we've said everything that we have to say. Any last minute thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I'm looking forward to next week. Nothing is wrong. I remember when I first heard you say that, I thought, wait a minute. I'm not teaching that stuff. I was in resistance to it, so I'm excited about talking about that.
Yeah, because I learned it from you. So
Yeah, I know, but I see. It must have come from my subconscious, or I wasn't paying attention when I was talking, or something. I don't know.
fair
Mm,
enough. Fair enough.
no,
So
okay.
I'd just like to let the newcomer know that this accountability practice that these principles help illuminate is an actual work that we do with that wounded child, with that subconscious energy that by definition we can't see. So that's where we have these compulsive behaviors because something's going on in my subconscious that making my body actually do things that my conscious mind says I'm not going to do that. And I do it
Right.
anyway.
They do
So we
anyway.
do that work. We use this accountability tree practice that John referred to during our conversation in group. And we have 4 group meetings every week. They're facilitated. John facilitates on Saturday mornings. This is all Pacific Coast time. I facilitate on Wednesday afternoons. Our colleagues Dan and Rodney facilitate on Monday and Thursday evenings. All the information about how you can join us in a meeting and check the practice out for yourself or ask questions about these principles or the accountability tree itself, please come and join us. That information's at the end of the podcast. It's all on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Maybe parts of the world you got to get up in the middle of the night, but um, anybody who would like to participate, please feel free to join us at one of the meetings. When you come to a meeting, you can jump right in the deep end of the pool and do some work on things that are bothering you, or you can stay off the sideline and not say a word.
Mhm.
We don't make anybody say anything. We invite people to participate, but because nothing's wrong, as we'll discuss next week, it's okay if you don't.
Correct.
So we hope to see you at a meeting sometime. We also ask that you hit a like on this video and subscribe if you aren't already subscribed to the Intentional Living channel. And we publish a podcast at least once a week. So please feel free to continue to follow this work with us. And with that, John, I guess I'll say goodbye for now and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Marty. Talk to you soon.